Thank you for visiting Past the Wire TV, the YouTube channel of PastTheWire.com.
Himself, Frankie Dettori. Ciao, Frankie. Tutto a posto.
Tutto a posto. Yes, that's a good start. So you haven't lost your Italian.
Frankie Dettori, legend, world-class jockey, one of the best ever to sit in the saddle, ambassador to the sport of kings. Meet Frankie during his fanfare like never before, only on Past the Wire TV.
Number one is Mo Donegal by Uncle Mo. And they're off in the Remsen. As they come on for the finish, and it's going to be tight here in the Remsen. Mo Donegal. Mo Donegal bearing down on the outside. It's Mo Donegal and early voting, and it is Mo Donegal to win the Wood Memorial. And it will be Mo Donegal to win the Test of the Champion, the Belmont Stakes.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Past the Wire TV. We're going to have some real, unfiltered jockey agent talk, race riding talk, horse racing talk with Nelson Arroyo, former jockey, current jockey agent, involved in the game just about his entire life. Nelson, welcome to the show, man. Happy to have you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Now we're going to cover a lot of stuff, but first, let's start off. Where are you right now?
Right now, I'm in Kentucky at Turfway Park with Abel Lescano.
Okay.
Next week, I'm bringing a new apprentice from Puerto Rico. Actually, Jairon Barbosa's cousin, the kid that just ran second in the Eclipse.
Okay.
I'm taking his cousin to Golden Gates next week to start his career in the U.S.
You know, one of the things since you've been an agent, and we might as well cover this now. I mean, you've represented a lot of established name riders, Abel Lescano being one of them. Currently, you kind of relit his career over at Turfway, but you've had a knack for a while of finding bug boys, bringing them here, bringing them to California for a while, bringing them to the United States and kind of getting them established, getting them a little bit of an education and, you know, really starting their careers. What is it? How have you been able to do that? Is it through your connections in Puerto Rico? Is it just from being in the game? You enjoy doing that, introducing young people to the game?
Mix of all of the above. Mainly the jockeys that I brought here is through a connection in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
So the jockey school in Puerto Rico, the same jockey school that the Ortiz came out of.
Right.
Also, the kids that I took to Cali, Velez, and Figueroa, Centeno, they all came from that school. The director and the teacher there is Willie Lozano, an ex-rider that I rode with on the coast.
Okay.
So we know each other for more than 20 years.
All right.
Now he's in charge of the school there. And actually Tiki is there as well. But through Willie, he's been able to find these kids for me. So he sends me videos of the apprentices in the school.
Okay.
And as they develop, we go through each month and each race that they ride. So they have practice races throughout the year. So he sends me those and he sends me clips of the kids on the equalizer.
Okay.
So he gives me a little behind the scene and I see them developing. and I just look for somebody who's naturally talented, that has
Okay.
that ability naturally. Because those kids I can develop easily.
Okay.
So that's how I've been doing it. It's through that connection of Willie Lozano.
Now, when you say natural talent, when you're watching a rider ride, like when I watch a guy ride, okay, even an inexperienced bug rider, I could see if he's got a good seat. I could see if he's got good rhythm and strong hands, if he, if he doesn't look sloppy, if he looks, low down. I could see if his, whip is smooth, and he could switch hands. We all as fans like to see jockeys, throw crosses and take that hold. But what is it that, like, you as a former rider, a trained rider and an agent, what is it that you might look for and see that I might not?
Small details, where they put their hands on the way that they hold the reins tells
Okay.
me a lot.
Okay.
Decisions that they make in a race, very important. But when it comes to the seat itself, I don't know how to tell you. It's like when you watch a horse train, when you see 1,000 horses training, and you see which ones come out champions and which ones don't make it. There's just a certain look about them, the way they move, the way they are, the way they stride. With the riders, the way they sit on a horse, just their presence. I can just tell by their presence, by the way that they arc their back. If you see a rider, something that I learned from way back when I first started, you show pride when you're on a horse. A jockey, when you see a jockey standing with his chest high, his hands are down, and you see the reins kind of tingling just a tiny bit. They're not tight on the horse's mouth. You can tell that jockey's not nervous.
Okay.
They're nervous, they got a strong hold on the horse.
Right.
Written, you might not see that. But after being on a horse, you can tell who's comfortable, who's not. The way that they throw their crosses and the way that they push and whip, it's just the minimum things that can't really explain it unless if I put them on the.
Oh yeah, I think you're explaining.
I can tell the details,
Yeah, no, I think you're explaining it good. And let me ask you, when you have a rider who, like you said, is nervous or tight, horses, correct me if I'm wrong, horses will sense that as well, correct?
We're on the same.
Right.
On the same. They're tight as well.
Right. So it's a negative. When a jockey's nervous, uptight, a horse feels it.
A lot of times people see a kid like Irad Ortiz, Jose, Norberto, my brother.
Right.
Horses run for them in a way that they don't run for other riders. Right. And we're talking about the best in the world.
Right.
You put Irad on top of the horse and he improves him 3 to 4 lengths. A lot of it has to do because of his confidence. If you see him on a horse, he's always smiling, got the reins loose. He's not, you can tell he's not scared.
Right.
And that has a lot to do with Irad's success. A lot of the riders who do very well, people don't realize it, but it's just the feeling that they have in them.
Right.
Transport that to the horse.
Let's talk about for a minute your riding career, okay? A little bit, because we're talking about that confidence and the lack of fear and how horses sense that and how it improves the rider and can improve a horse. You said even up to 3 or 4 lengths, okay? And I believe that as well. I'm one of the people that believe riders make a tremendous difference. A lot of people don't believe that, okay? They think, it's all the horse. Alan Jerkins was a great trainer, Hall of Famer. I hate to disagree with him on anything, but he always felt, doesn't matter who you put on a horse, if you put them on the right horse, they're going to win. And maybe that's true to some extent, but every day in and day out, I think riders make a tremendous difference. There are some riders that, I'll be honest with you, I won't bet on them. I certainly won't single them in a pick 6 or a pick 5 or something like that, just because I don't have that confidence level in them. Riding, we know, is very dangerous. Okay. You've had some injuries. Okay. You still deal with the results of those injuries. Okay. Talk a little bit about how that cut your career short, but how you're still able, after an injury, okay, after a fall, to get back up on a horse, back in that situation, knowing it can happen again and not have that fear.
Well, okay, when it comes to me, I'll go first to the part of the falling and being able to ride with no fear.
Okay.
You're young and stupid, that's easy to do.
I remember I used to ride a Kawasaki 1000 at 160 miles an hour with no helmet, no shirt on. And you couldn't give me $1 million today to do that.
No,
You know,
no. So part of being young and ignorant helps.
Right.
The other part of it is that you love riding so much. That's all you want to do. That the second you go down, and God's my witness, the second you hit the ground and you catch your breath and you move your legs, you say, I'm fine. I got to ride the next race. You're not thinking about anything else but the next race and your commitments, because the second that you are taken off of horses, this is a rough game.
Right.
Everybody's going after your mounts. You're thinking about your career in this year. This is a sport that no matter how good you are, you're replaceable. Very.
Right. What have you done for me lately? As good as your last mount, no contracts, all handshake.
So that pressure has a lot to do with it also. If we have a contract that guarantees us $1 million for the next year, we don't have to ride, fine. But every jockey rides every day with that pressure that he has to be number one every day. So that's to me, it's part of the reason why we're able to go down and get right back up. We don't even get the time to really think about the situation, the outcome, what can happen. It doesn't even come to your mind. You're just thinking about your career. We got to ride the next day. We got to ride the next horse. I can't lose the next mount. And that's how we live. I mean, we're special creatures in that part.
I agree and I understand.
When it comes to my career was a little short-lived because of my accident, but also because of stupid decisions that I made being young. Coming from, everybody who knows me knows that I came from Barrio Palmas, Cataño, Puerto Rico, which is, you know, the streets, it's hardcore, not educated. You know, I dropped out of high school when I was in 9th grade.
I dropped out the 8th grade.
Yeah, so
that's maybe why we get along so well.
Yeah. So my career was supposed to be, I was supposed to be a boxer, and I got into an accident with 2 trucks that hit me while I'm driving, stopped my career. So I ended up in horse racing. Now, when I come into the horse racing business, thank God I walked into the arms of Max Hall.
Okay.
Maxie Hall is, to me, is the greatest agent who ever lived. He's my mentor. He's like my father. He's the one who taught me about life, not only about horse racing, but about life. He taught me that I can change my life, that if depending on who I surround myself with is gonna determine my future, and to pick good people to surround myself with. And he actually guided me and my brother and put us in the hands of Angel Cordero, which is one of the greatest jockeys ever. So Angel took me and Norberto in, and we learned straight from Angel first. You just mentioned Alan Jerkins.
Right.
Alan Jerkins was my mentor. That's who I galloped horses for in New York before I became a bug boy.
Right.
So I was blessed enough that I got introduced to the right people.
Right.
And thanks to them, it changed my life. But as an apprentice, I was naturally talented. I was gifted, learned from the right people, and my head blew up early, which cost me a lot in my career. Following Norberto's footsteps, which everybody knows Norberto, we weren't living life the right way. We were not being professionals, and it cost us both. You know, I have to admit that my career, I didn't do what I was supposed to do because of that, being ignorant and just making the wrong choices. I've always had, I had my first son at 17. So since I became a jockey, from the first day that I rode, I had two kids already. I'm 18 years old and I have 2 kids. So I've always had a responsibility of being a father also. So I never got the chance to jump to different places when I wanted to.
Right.
The obligation of being a dad and being there for my kids, and that kind of helped me back a lot also. But I had a great time. I did well when I rode, but I took a lot of breaks, and from the experiences that I had, the good and the bad, is what's helping me develop these young riders the way that I am today.
Right. And you brought your son and other people into the agent business, and I know you're involved in a little bloodstock stuff that we'll touch on as well. But you did have a bad injury in a race. Talk us through that, because what I want to really bring out is well a couple of things. One is I want to tie it to the truck accident, because you had 2 careers really taken away from you as a result of accidents. I know you made some bad decisions, we all do, but a lot of riders with the kind of talent that you had overcome that. You know what I mean? The bad decisions, the accident, you couldn't overcome. You couldn't, you couldn't continue your career as a rider. So talk a little bit about the accident. Take us through it, and then tell me, if you would, and this is a personal, I know I understand that, but I think it's an interesting story, what it's like to think about, I could have been a fighter, I could have been a rider, if not for those 2 accidents, and credit to you, you've made a success of yourself in the business anyway, but talk a little bit about the accident and then tie it into the other accident and how you deal with that mentally.
It's heartbreaking. I think about it every single day. Every day that I wake up and I hustle that book and I'm making phone calls and I'm just wishing it was me who's riding. So it sucks. Every day I think about it, it hurts. But I believe a lot in God, and I believe that whatever pain you go through and difficulties just make you stronger, make you a better man. So when it comes to the accident, I had taken a break in 2007 from riding, 2006, 2007. And I came to Orlando and I was working in the sales and marketing industry here in Orlando. And I came back 2009 and I went back to Kentucky for the first time. So I go into that circuit. I ride a year between Kentucky and Indiana, and I'm making a good name for myself. 2010, the year begins. We're at Turfway. I'm gaining good business. Churchill down in Indiana starts those meets. Turfway ends. We go into those meets. I'm jumping back and forth. So I'm building business between both sides. The day off, the day of my accident, April 10th, April 20th, 2010. I went to Indiana to ride that day, and in the morning I had to work 10 horses for Tom Amos. So I go to the track, and as I'm working the horses, I feel a bunch of holes in the track. And as I'm working the horses, I'm feeding that information back to Tom through his assistant. Certain horses I remember I had to take to the outside, the third, the fourth path, because the first few horses I worked on the rail, I felt them kind of slipping, kind of taking holes. So the afternoon comes up, and I remember that I rode, the second race was my first race. I rode that race and I won that race. And when I got off and I went back into the jockey's room, I had a feeling to take off, not to ride anymore. And I called my dad and I told him, Dad, I won my race of the day. I'm not gonna win no more today. So I was a rider, like I said, little bit ignorant, where I'm just thinking on my wins. So my dad tells me, Papi, you have a commitment. Remember that you committed yourself to these owners and these trainers who are expecting you to ride their horses. That's how a jockey burns himself.
Right.
Take it through, be a professional. So, he's right. I ride a couple more. I call him again and I tell him, Papi, I really want to take off. Says, Bob, be strong. You got a few horses left. You're going to win the 8th race. Don't worry about it. All right. The 8th race comes up. When I break out the gate, I have this thing that when you feel a horse, the second they break out the gate, it gives you a feeling. It gives you a feeling like I won. I don't know about this one. Just in that first jump, you can tell a lot. And I remember when we broke, we break on top. I said, I got this. So I take them back and I let the horses on my outside take the lead. And I'm on the inside in the second group of horses. And around the 5/8 pole, I feel that my horse takes a bad step. And when he takes that bad step, I grab him and I'm thinking he's hurt. So I grab him and I remember that I look down and I see him striding just fine. And he goes away. So I said, most likely was a hole.
Okay.
We get to the half a mile, 3/8 pole. The ones on the lead, since I took a hold at the 5/8 pole, they open up like 2 lengths on me. And they're starting to open up 2.5. And to me, they're dead. So I don't need to make a move. I'm waiting for the ones behind me to get close to me, like that. When they get close to me, I make my move and I save as much horse as I can.
Right.
Nobody's coming. They're getting away a little. And I said, let me test them just in case. And I smooch once. Boom, he picks up the bit and takes off. So I know I have it.
Right.
When we turn for home, they're in the 3rd, 4th path because obviously the track is bad.
Okay.
But they start to drift out and drift in. Some horses come on their outside, and I'm not about to circle the whole field now. So I made the decision of going on the rail because, of course, why should I be thinking that I can't go on the rail because the track is unsafe? Nobody thinks about that. You shouldn't have to think about that as a rider.
Right. The track should be safe. I mean,
at all times. So I say, let's go. When I drop in the rail, it's a little bit past the 1/4 pole, 3/16 pole. I drop in the rail. I throw my cross, my horse takes off. I go to take the whip out with the left hand so I can just secure that he keeps on going. I know I have it. By the April, when I take out the whip and I go to whip, I'm in the air, flying by myself. And I remember that it was the slowest thousandth of a second ever. I saw myself going down in slow motion, and I got the thought, oh no, why? And I hit. When I land, I had fallen before plenty of times.
Right.
But this time when I land, I fall back and I can't breathe. So usually when you go down, you lose your breath.
Right.
The first times you go down, you think you're gonna die. After you go down a few times, you know that you're gonna catch your breath again. It's okay. You try to calm yourself down.
Right.
So I can't catch my breath. I can't catch my breath. I can't catch my breath. So now I start to panic. I start to pray. I can't pray. The words won't come out. I'm trying to say, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And the rest don't come out. I get confused. And I start again, our Father who art in heaven. And that's it. And he stops there. And I see everything closing on me. I see a little light from far. So whatever you hear about the little light, very true.
Okay.
Very true. Yeah, you see the little light. And you get this sound, this buzzing sound in your ear, like everything is about to shut off. And right there, I start praying. I ask God for a second chance. And I tell him, if you give me a second chance, I give you my word that I'll be there for my kids at all times. Let me be a father to my kids. I lost my father, our relationship, when I was young, and I know the importance of growing up with a father. So I begged God for that. The second I did that, I caught my breath again. And the pain wouldn't stop getting worse. The pain just got worse and worse and worse and worse, and I wouldn't knock out either. So I knew I broke my back immediately. So I moved my legs. I try to move my legs, and Francisco Torres, the jockey.
I know who it is.
He ran from the jockeys. He ran, and he was the first one at my age. And he's trying to calm me down. And I remember I'm telling him, Cisco, I broke my back. Yeah, so that's how it happened. Yeah, I broke my back. I broke shattered T7 in my spine, broke C3 in my neck, and broke all my ribs. So everything just, I was destroyed inside. They put 2 rods in me, 8 screws and a plate, which is what keeps me up now. And thank God, because of that, I'm okay now.
Right.
It took me about three months to walk again. Took me about a year to be able to jog a little bit. And after a year, every time that I thought about riding, for the first time, I felt fear, a fear that I couldn't beat. My whole life, I grew up around danger. I grew up around fights, shootouts, you name it. I've been there. So I've always been able to break my fear. Being a boxer, you know, when you're a boxer, that's what drives you. You know, when you see your opponent big and husky, and you know he got the name that, you know, he's a killer. Right. And you know, that's what, that fear is what makes you want to fight him. Like, hold on, I can't fear this guy, he's gonna fear me. You know. Right. What I mean? So I grew up with that fire that I get from fear. And it was the opposite. It was a fear that made me shrink, that made me nervous, make me anxious, give me anxiety.
Right.
And just because of that, I told my wife, I said, listen, I gotta ride again. I gotta beat this fear. I'm not gonna live with this fear. And I rode again, and I rode for a month. And after I rode for that month, I won 7 races. Everything was, I mean, I was, you can put me on a 50-1, I get them in the money. I get them to win, and I did great. Wallace Dolasi, rest in peace, was the first one who put me back on.
Okay.
Yeah, in Kentucky. And but after that month, I remember I rode a horse for Tommy Drury
Okay.
that I ran second in. Great ride. I remember that I was trying to block the favorite, Jamie Terrio, was on the favorite. And I remember that I had him pinned on the rail, and I had a horse in front of me, and oof, I did everything to beat him.
Right.
Around me, great ride. I got beat.
Uh-huh.
So they're praising me, what a great ride. And what they didn't know is that the pain that I felt, I couldn't handle it anymore.
Right.
When I went to the jobs room, I dropped on my knees, and Marlon St. Julian ran up to me, and Victor LeBron. They both go up to me, and they try to pick me up. And I always got help in the jockeys from by the rest of the jockeys, you know, they'll give me eye drops because I'll be crying after a race because of the pain. Right. And I would hide it. So they're trying to help me. And I tell them, I said, guys, fuck, I can't, sorry. I said, I can't ride anymore. Right. Victor LeBron looked at me and said, Nelson, you'll be a great agent. If you take my book, I'll talk to my agent right now. I'll tell him that I'll start with you tomorrow. And I went from riding to the next day, going to the backside with Victor LeBron. And that's how I became a jockey agent. And that's
really, it's really a great story. That really is. And you've become a successful agent. And now your son is an agent. That's really a special story, but it goes into a lot of things because we know how tough it is as fans and race watchers and even bettors, gamblers, whatever you want to call it, how tough a jockey's life is, maintaining weight, no days off, worried about losing business, no contracts. But you just explained a whole nother side of the sport with dealing with pain, injury, fear, real life, race riding, and I think illustrate for those who don't know, and a lot of the lack of a better term, armchair jockeys that are out there criticizing riders. You should be doing this. You should be doing this. This guy got me beat. Why didn't he go to the left hand? Why did he go inside? Why did he go outside? When you got a split-second decision to control a 1,000-pound animal that also may want to do something that you don't want him to do. Other riders, like you said, you had Jamie Therio trapped, pinned in, not letting him out because you know maybe he's on a better horse. You want to beat him on the next best horse. How do you do that? You got to outthink him, outride him. You know, you're not going to outrun him, you know? Yeah. So I think that's a phenomenal window into race riding, okay? And the difficulties that riders face. I remember when Luis Saez's brother was killed. I always found it, and he's not the first brother I knew. I go back a long way. So I remember Robert and Alvaro Pineda, who were probably before your time, but they were two riders that both wound up getting killed in races. They were two brothers. I would say one in the late 70s, one in the early 80s. I mean, two brothers, you know. So when Juan Saez got killed, and Louis was able to keep riding and develop into one of the premier riders. He just won, you know, he every day he's winning all over the place. He's a top rider in the world, really. To do that and know your brother was, I mean, it takes, like you said, a special breed of person. And I know riders who have ridden hurt, and I know riders who have been hurt. And like you said, the only thing on their mind is, I got to get back. I can't lose business. I can't lose that horse. I can't lose that barn. And as friendly as you guys are, okay, in the room, okay, and out to dinner and out at clubs and then social things, on the racetrack and on the business side, it's competitive and cutthroat. You know what I mean? I mean, everybody's fighting for the same dollar, you know, and nobody wants to give up a piece of it. So it's an interesting dynamic because, like I said, I had Luca Panici on the show this week, and we were talking about that. And I said, you know, where else would you find next week or 2 weeks, whatever it is, the Eagles are going to play the Chiefs. At halftime, they go into different locker rooms.
Yeah.
You guys go into the same room. You know what I mean? You know,
We go into the same room, and if we argue, we argue. If we fight, we fight.
right.
And we gotta leave it all behind in the Jockey and go ride the next race.
Exactly. Right. And
Try not to kill each other.
right. And if you don't walk that tightrope, correct me if I'm wrong, because I've never ridden a race, so I've just been watching and talking to guys like you and know, but if you can't leave that behind, okay? Like, let's just use the example. Jamie Theriot and you have words after that. Why didn't you give me out? You know what I mean? You cost me the race, this, that, I have words. And now the next race, you're riding next to each other. If you don't leave that other race behind you, now it become a dangerous situation where somebody makes a mistake, does something, and one of you two could get hurt, or somebody that had nothing to do with it, another innocent rider and or horse can get hurt, correct?
That's a great point that you just mentioned. You'll be surprised how many riders that's why there's only a few great ones, because those great ones are the ones capable of doing such a thing, of riding each race, focused on that race, no matter what's happening in their lives. If their mother's sick with cancer, dying, if their brother died like Saez, whatever's happening in life, they're able to leave that behind the gates. And once them gates open, they have a clear mind to be able to ride that race. There's a lot of riders who stay mad at another rider and they lose races trying to screw with that rider.
Right.
Nobody sees it, nobody knows it, only that rider and maybe the trainer who rode him.
Right.
Look at the race and say, he blew the race for me. I see him chasing that rider, but nobody else sees it. There's so much behind the scenes.
Right.
That people don't know about, that's never been spoken of before.
Right.
Something like that. Yeah. Issues like that do cause a lot of races. They blow a lot of races, and it's unheard of, it's unspoken.
Right. And sometimes people notice it, and I don't remember. So I don't want to be quoted because I'm not calling him out, because I don't even remember whether he was the aggressor or the other guy. But I remember, I want to say Martin Garcia one time had an incident with a rider, okay? And then in another big race, not long after that, either he went out and pressured that guy on the lead and cost the horse a race, or vice versa. Might have been the other way around. Might not have even been Martin. So I don't mean to use his name, but yeah. I think it was. But it was one of those things where everybody was talking about, oh, him and that guy had that other situation, and go, oh, look what he did, and just people picked up on it. So yeah, like you said, a lot goes on behind the scenes. You know, that people don't know and will never know. And It's just the nature of the game.
A great example is the Paco Lopez and Irad situation. You know, now
Right.
they're friends and everything, it's fine. But
Right.
even them two, as professional as they are, they couldn't hide the fact that they had issues between each other, you know, with themselves, and it showed on the track.
Right.
And I think that they both learned a lot from it. I remember that, I mean, Irad learned a lot. I remember that year, Irad was getting a lot of heat because he was
Right.
being super aggressive.
Right.
I think that now through those situations, like I said, that's why there's only a few great ones. And I
Right.
see Irad as a great example of somebody who, from that year, if you watch him race this last year now, you didn't see any complaints. You didn't see all that controversial stuff about Irad being super aggressive. He was still aggressive. He
Right.
still outrode every other rider, but
Right.
he learned to do it in a smoother, finer way without getting in trouble and without being too aggressive. So that, to me, that's a great example of that happening.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask you about that. Because to me, all right, I grew up watching guys like Angel. Okay. A lot of people criticize Irad and Paco today as being reckless, aggressive riders. Okay. If you grew up going to the races every day in the 70s and 80s and watched Angel Cordero, Georgie Velasquez, Jacinto Vasquez, and those guys,
That was the
that's
normal.
how they rode. Okay. I used to go to Aqueduct, all right, and it was hard to walk from the car to the track without slipping on the ice, and they never thought about canceling the races. You know what I mean?
And
It was
that's a great point. That's a great point because that's also a great reason why the jockeys back in the days, that's why there was so many great riders,
right.
because you had to learn each rider and the tricks that they did to win races. Riders didn't wait to ride the best horse to win.
Right.
Riders, if I'm on a 10-1 and there's 4 people that I have to beat, I'm trying to figure out how to beat them all. Who can I drop on the rail? Who can I take wide? Like, that's why you hire certain riders, because they'll make it happen.
Exactly. And there's a fine line, okay, between race riding and recklessness. And I sometimes get criticized or get in arguments because people will criticize Irad or criticize Paco, and I'll say, listen, you know, there's race riding and there's recklessness, and sometimes you could go a little overboard, but sometimes it's really race riding. It's a dangerous game. And I'll give you, like I said, if they watched Angel ride day to day back then, today, they would want to hang him. They'd say, oh, is too dangerous. I mean, look at, perfect example is the Preakness. It was the first classic Wayne Lucas ever won. Angel rode Codex, okay, win the Preakness, took Genuine Risk out, caught right in front of her, intimidated her,
What a great
brought her
ride.
outside, didn't come out, it didn't come down. Vasquez commented after the race, if he tries that with me again, I'll knock him over the rail. He thought it was a foul, didn't come down. That was race riding back then. Another great example, and I mentioned this on the show the other day, Lafitte Pincay, when Woody Stevens won 5 Belmonts in a row, Lafitte Pincay rode a horse called Caveat and win one of them. Okay, Caveat was on the rail coming from off the pace, okay, and making his move on the rail at Belmont. Okay, Greg McCarron, I think, was on the lead on a horse. I want to say his name was R Point, and I think Angel was like second on the outside with Slew of Gold. Okay, and I'm not sure about the horses, but I think so. But I know it was Caveat. Lafitte stayed on the rail. Okay. And when they turned for home, it was tight. R Point and Greg McCarron was in like the, I don't want to say the 2 path, maybe the 1.5 path. Okay. And Lafitte wasn't going to go around him because Angel was right outside of him and he wasn't going to take that chance, and he had his momentum, and he just went right through the rail and knocked him out of the way and just went on and win the race on the rail. You know, today everybody would say, oh, you know, it was race riding, you know. it's a dangerous game. It's a fine line, but the great ones can do it without crossing that fine line. And I think you're right about Irad. People still label him an aggressive rider, but I do think that he's become more aware of that and has toned it down and has learned how to stay within race riding and not cross into reckless or dangerous riding. When you take on these riders, okay, the young ones especially, do you teach them that kind of stuff too? I mean, we all know you got to get the mounts, okay, and that's number one job. But do you mentor them and teach them and share this kind of knowledge with these young guys?
Yeah. So the difference with me is that when I take a young rider, the first thing I do, I sit them down to watch replays of the old riders. I don't have them watch any of the new jockeys. The only one that I would put them to watch is Irad and Fly and Pratt.
Okay.
From the new jockeys, I think that those two are really good people that you can learn different things from.
I was going to say, because they both look very different on a horse. They're both great, but they look very different.
Different riders. Pratt, though, is very aggressive, the same as Irad. He does it differently.
Okay.
He does it differently. You can't see it. But Pratt's great at being aggressive without being seen. Very smart rider, very good turf rider. But I focus a lot on the old riders. When I said a jockey, okay, like the kid that I'm going to take right now, I'm gonna sit him down first week, and I'm gonna show him on the grass Jose Santos and Ramon Dominguez. Those are the two riders that he'll learn from before he watches any other riders on the turf.
Okay.
When it comes to the new riders, Pratt will be the one that he'll be watching a little bit, but it'll be those two old riders. To me, those are the two best in the world on the grass.
So you really take these guys on as not only an agent, but a teacher.
Oh yeah, I teach them. Yeah, I put them. Okay, so my routine with this kid would be, I will have him working horses in the morning at whatever racetrack we're at. I'll show up with him in the morning, and I teach them how to walk, how to dress. Like my jockeys, I don't like jockeys who dress like they're athletes, they're professionals. I'll teach them, no Jordans, you throw those sneakers away. Now you wear shoes, you wear shoes and button ups. And so I change their image. I start to teach them the same way that Maxi did with me, of how to become a professional in all ways. So I'll bring them to the track. I'll watch them the way that they get on the horse. I'll walk with them to the track. I'll see the way that they interact with their own horse, how they work the horses. I'll have them work on their clock. So all day long, I'm gonna have him working horses and telling me the time before they give us the time. So I'll meet them at the gap and I'll ask them, how fast did you go the first eighth? How fast did you go the quarter? How fast did you go the 3/8? How fast did you go the half?
How accurate should a guy be when he tells you that? Exactly, or within a second?
Less than a second.
Okay.
Less than a second. A second, it's fine. But yeah, if they ask you for a minute, you want a minute and change.
Right.
A minute and one is a little too slow already.
Right.
102, you can get fired.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of apprentices lose business on just working horses because it shows their inexperience. And if you don't have a clock in the morning, you're not gonna have a clock in the afternoon.
Okay. So my question is to be a successful rider, in addition to all the physical, mental, attributes, discipline, eating, diet, everything.
You gotta have a clock.
Be successful to be at the top. You got to have a clock in your head.
Gotta have a clock. If you don't have a clock, if you don't have a clock, you will never be great.
So when I'm watching a race, okay, I'm watching a race on the turf, okay, and they put up the quarter, they're going a mile and a quarter, let's say, on the grass, and they put up that first quarter in 22 and change or 23 and change, and I know for a mile and a quarter, that's fast.
Yeah.
The good riders in that race, they know the same thing that I'm seeing without seeing it, correct?
Good riders, the second they break out the gate, within 5-6 strides, they know that he screwed up.
Okay.
Whoever's on the lead, and if you're on the lead and you're a good rider going that fast, you should be with your feet on the dashboard, taking back for dear life.
Okay.
If his hands are down and the horse is going, there's no clock there.
Right.
I mean, unless the instructions are go all out is the only way this horse runs.
Right.
You screwed up, yeah. So if you're a good rider and you're on the lead, we're watching the race and we don't know what's going on. That rider's been shitting brakes since he broke out the gate because he knows he's going way too fast. He knows he blew the race by the time he hits the quadruple.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit, because this kind of ties into you in a way. It breaks away from the young guys. Abel Lascano, okay? He's Jose Lascano's brother. Cousin, okay? He's in somewhat of a comeback himself, and you are instrumental in that comeback and getting him back, winning, making a name for himself again. Can you tell us a little bit about, if it's not too personal, what he went through and how you brought him back and how he's dealing with his comeback by somebody who's, you know, you've been there, done that. So,
you know what? Extremely grateful to be back with him. He's a great friend. So I met Abel in 2016. I meet him at Churchill Downs, and we rode there for about a month. And I decided this kid needs to go to Cali. I talked to John Sadler, and I take him to Santa Anita. When I take him to Santa Anita, we start doing great. And Abel used to drink a lot. And he's a big, strong guy. He's short, but his physique, he looks like a bodybuilder. He's not like a normal rider. Like, he looks like a little gorilla, you know. When you see
Lafitte Pincay used to be like that. You saw Lafitte without a shirt, he looked like a little bodybuilder. Right?
Yeah. So that's Lascano.
Okay.
So he couldn't eat. He's never been able to really eat. So since he used to drink, he would drink hard liquor under an empty stomach. And when we're at Santa Anita, we're doing great. After about a year, things started to go a little bit the wrong way. He wasn't doing things right. He lost his focus. The drinking was part of it. Norberto had just come in the picture. Kind of, you know, there was a little situation with Norberto and him where he didn't feel like he was being looked after the same way. So we decided for him to come back to Kentucky. So he comes back to Kentucky, does great. Jimmy McNair, he took him to Turfway Park. He was like maybe lead jockey there, second lead jockey that meet. A little bit after that meet, his career starts to kind of go downhill.
Right.
It happens to be that the kid, he had a kidney failure. So the kid was dying, and he was trying to ride, going through that without knowing that he was actually dying. So when he finally makes it to the hospital, to the doctor, they basically tell him that, you know, he might have a few months, that he needs a transplant right away. him and his wife decide to go to his home country, Panama, because it was cheaper to get the transplant. Supposedly they could do it there. I don't know what went on really, but he ends up back in Panama, almost dies there, has to come back to the US as an emergency. When he's here, took him about 2 years to get a transplant. And then thanks to God, he got that done. I believe his wife is the one who came through for him, got a match. And that was about a year ago. And he came back to Belterra in Ohio, and he struggled for about 6 months. He couldn't get fit. He couldn't breathe in the races. He felt weak. And he kept on pushing through and pushing through. And around the Breeders' Cup, I watched him ride a few races. And John, I was so impressed and so amazed by the way that he rode those races. I decided to come back. Norberto, my brother, had been in jail. He was gonna come out. He came out on November 25th.
Right.
It was a time that I didn't know if Norberto might be able to come back and ride, if he would need the help. But by watching Abel, I decided that I'm gonna come back. I want to work for Abel. And yeah, so I gave him a call. I told him that I would like to work with him, that I see the way he's riding. And to tell you the truth, John, I see really, really good things for Abel. He's impressing me every day. Like, I can't express it. You'll see it as time goes and he gets the right mounts, but he's riding the best ever. Yeah, but that's the situation with Abel. Yeah, he almost died, and for him to be here, it's
an accomplishment in and of itself. Yeah, it really
a miracle.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I think he's in good hands with you. So that's a good thing. Now, your brother Norberto, very, very talented rider. Kind of like a cat, 9 lives. He's had so many things that have set him back. And he keeps coming back and clawing and fighting his way back. Like you said, he's been released from jail, and state prison is no joke. Do you think Norberto is going to make it back into the saddle again?
Yeah, I mean, he's when it comes to riding, he's God gifted, you know. He's the gift he got is just came from God. His abilities on a horse, you can't explain them, you know. It's just run for him, the mentality he has. The plan with him, hopefully in about 3 to 4 months, he'll get okay to ride again. At the moment, he's in Cali, he's in Los Angeles. We're waiting for to transfer his parole to Florida.
Okay.
So I can bring him into the farm.
Okay.
Get him ready. And the fact about him getting back, there's no doubt he's gonna get back as long as he's able to maintain a straight path. And we've all seen how tough that's been for him. So, you know, prayers but so far so good. He's never been as good as he is right now.
Okay.
Since he's gotten out, he's shown that I think that he's learned his lesson. Of course, it's too soon to talk. I don't want to say anything because we've seen what has happened, you know, and it happens to all of them for some reason. All of the great ones, you know, they all have certain issues, and but as of right now, he's doing great. He's doing really good, and yeah, hopefully by the Keeneland meet, he might be able to come back And if not in the summer, he'll definitely be back, God willing.
Okay. How's his fitness level? Fit?
No.
Some people come out of jail real fit, some don't. You never know.
Okay, so for him, he weighs about 128, which for him is fat. For me,
Okay.
that's great.
Right.
But it doesn't take it don't take him long. He's a natural.
Right.
But yeah, he's started working out, and it'll take him about 2 months to get ready. But
Right.
yeah, he didn't come out ready though.
Okay. Yeah. 128's not that bad though.
No.
Yeah, that's,
I mean, the whole thing, he's being smart because he knows that the second he's ready, is
uh-huh.
with him mentally,
Right.
the pressure of riding back. So he's taking it easy, doing everything real laid back. But yeah, it came out with nice and
It
chunky.
happens. It happens. As we get older too, it's a little tougher
Yeah.
to keep the pounds off. We tend to expand a little bit,
Yeah.
I want to ask you one last aging question, then we'll talk a little bit about your son and a little bit about bloodstock. But last thing I want to ask you, which I've always been fascinated by this question, okay? Being an agent is tough, okay? Having to take off a horse to ride another horse, but maintain the relationship with the guy that you're taking off is tough, okay? It's a lot of pride, a lot of ego, a lot of business. It's tough, but here's my question, and I think it's interesting because it goes from one spectrum to the other. An agent who's got a no-name rider that nobody's heard of, goes out every morning trying to get him mounts, has a hard job, okay? But you have the top rider in the country, Irad or Flavian or somebody like that, Louis, any of the top guys. That guy goes out, everybody wants him. He's got to maintain relationship with everybody. He's got a really hard job too. You think it's easy, but being number one is not easy. You got to keep everybody happy. So you got one guy begging to ride anything. You got another guy trying to keep everybody happy. Which is the tougher job from the agent's point of view?
Well, the tougher job is that one with no business.
Okay.
Yeah, that one with no business is the toughest job because it's frustrating going to work, working horses for free.
Right.
If you have a talented rider, you work and you're going to make it eventually.
Right.
But as agents, we chart each race in the condition book in advance. And we're looking for the horses that ran second, third, fourth in each race. And it's our job to go after those mounts. So when you have a jockey that's unknown, you're working a lot for nothing. You're asking for mounts, you're making your phone calls, you sit down all day and you go on your computer and you chart each race. And so you're working for free. That gets frustrating.
Right.
So that's the tough part of it. Great thing is when you finally get your chances and you see this jockey building and growing, and then you see him become a superstar, there's no bigger reward than looking back and saying, wow, I made this happen. So that's the benefit of when you start off someone young with no business and you make them, because it's on you, that credit. You made that happen. And there's nothing that I enjoy more than making that happen. When it comes to go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you, what is it? And I know what it is, but there's people watching that might not know. And trainers I know complain about this about agents a lot. Okay. Oh, he spun me. Oh, I don't want to ride it. He spun me. What exactly is that? What does it mean? Is it something you have to do?
I'm gonna get to that now
Okay.
with the top rider.
Okay,
When you have a top rider, everybody wants you. As an agent, you are busy 24/7 because first thing you do when the condition book comes out, so a condition book comes out, where all the races for the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks are in that book. And all these horses have a certain race, a certain condition that they run in, certain distance. So you have to go through each race in that book, the first day to the second day that book comes out.
right,
Because the way that you get yourself in trouble is if you don't go through that book and see the horses that you've written, and you start to eliminate the ones that you don't think are gonna win back in that race. Now you gotta look for the winner of that race. So if the trainer, let's say you train a horse that ran fifth for claiming 25,000, let's say. You ran fifth, we ran fifth by 10 lengths. You decide to go back in that race because of whatever reason. He's been training great, he's looking better, he's training better. Top Pleasure gives me a call and says, I'm gonna drop one in from 50,000 that ran third by 3 lengths. Horse can't lose for the 25. He's being dropped in a spot that he can't lose. I have to get off your horse. I have no other choice but to get off your horse, because if my jockey finds out that I had a mount for Top Pleasure that's gonna win, that horse wins, and he's in the jockey's room watching that horse win, or he's riding that horse that got beat by 10 lengths and I put him back up. It's just, that's where it comes, where you think I'm spinning you. But the right thing to do is, when the book comes out, I gotta go through that book and see if there's a horse in that race that I can ride that's better than yours.
okay,
If I find a better mount in that race, a good agent is gonna give you a call and tell you, listen, your horse just ran fifth by 10 lengths. I have a horse in there that I believe is gonna beat you. By paper,
right,
it's gonna beat you. You have no chance. Not to this horse. Now you can run back in this race. I'll help you get a rider
right,
that you like. So first of all, you gotta know each trainer and what jockeys they like, and you have to do your homework. So
Right.
before you call that trainer, you gotta call the agents of the jockeys that trainer likes, see if they're open.
okay,
If they say, yes, I'm open, you ask them, hold that spot for me. It's
okay,
a good guy. Okay, I'll hold it for you. I don't have anything. Thank
Right.
you, Nelson. Perfect. So now you work with that agent. You
right,
call up the trainer and you tell him, so-and-so is open. I have another horse in this race. So I please you where I get you the rider that you want. I get the mount for my rider that's gonna be the favorite. So you can work it out. Depending on who it is, you have to know your clients as well.
Gotcha.
Example, I'm gonna use 2 names, very good friends of mine, Doug O'Neill and Peter Miller. 2 great examples. Doug O'Neill is a trainer that he's very laid back and easy to work with. And Peter is a trainer who is very aggressive, easy to work with if you do things right by him.
okay,
So they're both easy to work with if you know how to work with them. Dougie's the type that you can give him a call and tell him, Dougie, I got a different horse in this race. Can I take off? And you can call him last minute. And he'll understand and say, damn, all right, let me see who's open. Let me check with the owner. And I'll let you know. And he'll call you back and tell you, Nelson, yes, go ahead. Ride that horse. Everything's fine. I got this rider. We're good.
Okay.
Or he'll tell you, Nelson, the owner wants your rider. Stay on my horse. No worries. So you call up the next guy and you tell him, I gotta stay on Doggy. And that's the relationship that we have. If one of his owners wants to switch riders on a horse that I've been riding, we have the relationship that he calls me and tells me, Nelson, I gotta take you off this horse.
Right.
The owner wants a different rider, I'll get you a different, a different mount. But that helps me be able to look for a different horse in that race.
Gotcha.
It's a teamwork. It doesn't have to be spinning. Me
Right.
spinning, you spinning me.
What about Peter? Yeah.
Peter, if you gave him a call, you stick to that call. Stick to that call. Now, the relationship that I have with Peter, if I tell him with time and he can get a good rider, he's fine.
Okay.
He's fine. But usually if you give Peter a call, you just stick to that.
Now, it brings me to something else. In the Pegasus World Cup, I don't know if you know, if you noticed, the winner, Art Collector, was being ridden by Luis Saez. Okay, he rode Peter Miller's horse in the Pegasus World Cup, and Junior Alvarado won the race on Mott's horse, Art Collector. And a lot of people were talking. I didn't know the answer, but a couple of people asked me, thinking I might know. Do you know whether Saez took off or whether Mott made the change? I was like, I really have no idea. I don't know. Could have been a million things. Maybe they didn't know they were going to run Art Collector there. Saez gave him a call. After the race, Mott in the interview said Luis took off. He wanted to ride another horse, and he did. And, Junior rides for us, and we went with Junior, and he won the race. That's got to be tough for the agent and the rider in a race like that. And I mean, $3 million race, world stage, and it really fell on you. You didn't get taken off. You opted for the wrong horse. How tough is that? Is that like?
Oh, it's maybe the worst thing after blowing a race. As a rider, when you blow a race, there's no worse feeling. When you see a rider make a mistake, there's no reason, there's no need to yell at him, to tell him you suck. Believe me,
They're more mad at themselves. Right.
He's gonna go home that night, and you don't know how many times this sport makes grown men cry. You go to the bathroom and you're thinking about how much this race could have changed your career. Forget about the check. You might have missed out on a $60,000 check that you might have needed at the moment, but you don't even care about that check. You're just thinking about all the other checks and all the other horses that you lost because of this mistake, this simple mistake that you made within 1,000 of a second.
Right.
And that kills you. The second worst feeling is making the wrong choice. It's choosing the wrong horse, because especially for a guy like Billy Mott, who rides you a lot, who's from the East Coast. And of course, you want to ride the best horse, just like I mentioned earlier. As an agent, you want to ride the best horse because your rider deserves it. And you being the rider, you want to win the race, and you don't see anything personal when it comes to relationships or anything like that. You just want to be on the best horse so you can win that race. So when you choose the wrong horse, as long as the relationships are still okay, it doesn't hurt that bad.
Right.
It doesn't hurt that bad, because especially with a name like Saez. Saez is gonna be fine. He's gonna get the rest of his horses.
Right.
If he was the opposite, if he was Junior Alvarado, who's just climbing up there to where Saez is, he's at the same level when it comes to riding ability, But when
Right.
it comes to business, he doesn't have as much business as size. So
Right.
if it was the other way around, it's heartbreaking. It's really bad.
Right.
Because
Right.
this win could have taken you to the next level, like
Right.
now it's taking Alvarado. Size is on that level already, so it's not as bad for size.
Right. Now, your son, how is your son doing as an agent? Does he like it? Is he going to stick with it? Is he
He
taking
loves
to
it.
it like you?
So right now I have my youngest son, Brandon Arroyo.
Okay.
He's working for Victor Lebron, the
Okay.
jockey who gave me my first chance.
Right.
Gave him his first chance, and he also has Chase Miller in
Okay.
Kentucky. Yeah, he loves the sport. He's starting to do very well. He's picking it up good. Then I have Elijah,
Right.
who's doing the bloodstock agent work.
Okay.
Yeah, he just hooked up with Nathan Macaulay. Nathan
Okay.
Macaulay. And he's starting to get into the 2-year-old sales, buying
Okay.
mare prospects, mares in fall. But he's working that with Nathan Macaulay. That's his mentor right now.
Okay.
And he also owns horses. He has a horse at Gulfstream that's doing well, and
Okay.
he's starting to build groups for ownership groups and buying horses at the sales, claiming. So yeah, so 2 of them are in the horse racing business, and my oldest Goldie likes it, not as much as the first 2. Right now he's doing the sales and marketing.
Right.
But he's not such a big fan as the other 2.
This was a great show. I know you're busy. I'm not going to take any more of your time, but we got to close with something that we both have a passion for. Okay. We got to talk a little boxing. All right. Now, I know for a fact that you could use your hands pretty good. Okay. I seen a video a year or 2 ago. I don't know if it was with your son or somebody. You had a young kid sparring with you. You were teaching him. He was throwing crosses, uppercuts, hooks, everything. And you were kind of schooling him a little bit. And I know Norberto can use his hands. I know your dad was a sparring partner for Roberto Duran, one of the probably the greatest lightweight ever. When he was a lightweight, you know, when he moved up, it changed. He was still great. But let's talk. I want to ask you a couple of boxing questions because I love boxing. I do spar a little and box myself a little bit. I'm a little old now, but I like to get in the ring and go. I want to ask you a couple of boxing questions because I got opinions on boxing, and I'm an old school guy, so forgive me. All right.
No, so am I.
Okay.
Right.
Floyd Mayweather. I think great fighter. A little overrated, definitely not the best of all time. Agree or disagree?
Agree and disagree.
Okay,
So,
talk to me.
the whole thing with Floyd, I was a big critic of Floyd. I thought the same thing that you did. I mean, I seen the greats, and the whole thing with Floyd is that he's the greatest defensive fighter ever.
True. Can't hit him. Right.
That's the whole thing. And one of the most disciplined fighters ever. So we have great fighters like Duran,
Right.
who drank, did drugs, could have had a way better career than what he did. That's a great example of somebody who could have been even greater than what he was. Miguel Cotto is another example. You know, Miguel, I love Miguel. I've met Miguel. He's great friends with my cousins and family. But I think that he would agree. I think that the drinking didn't let him perform the way that he could have. Floyd is one of the cleanest fighters ever. Floyd don't drink, he don't smoke, he don't do drugs. He goes to the nightclub. You know, he used to go to the nightclubs in Vegas. And he will leave the nightclubs in Vegas. He will be at the nightclub drinking water all night long, leave at 5 a.m. and he'll jog 5 miles home, you know, with his guards in the car, and he jogs home. I've never seen a fighter with that commitment. So that's what has made Floyd great, is that to me, he is the greatest defensive fighter ever. Offensively, no.
Okay.
And businessman, one of the best businessmen ever. So
Yeah,
he's able to pick and choose his opponents the right way. So that's why you'll never see him as the greatest fighter ever, because he cherry picked his opponents.
I agree with that.
So that he'll never have the name of the greatest fighter ever. He will never be that guy.
Well, if he was on the show with us and we asked him, he would tell us he was the greatest ever, I think.
I would agree as a greatest defensive and picking the right fighters.
Right, right. I thought, and I see now why I was wrong, but I thought when the first time he fought Canelo Alvarez, I thought Canelo was a hard enough hitter that he had a shot to beat him. And it turned out I couldn't have been more wrong. And to me, it just looked like Canelo froze. He just didn't show up that night. I mean,
the whole thing is this. Remember about what Ali used to say. Your hands can't hit what your eyes can't see.
right.
So when you step into the ring and every move you go to make, your opponent is anticipating every move you make. You look stupid. You feel stupid.
Right.
You feel stupid. Everything you do, he's beating you to it. You can't hit him.
It was like the No Mas fight when Leonard just was on his game and Duran wasn't.
Yeah, he couldn't hit him and he just got hit. Couldn't hit him and just got hit.
Right, and finally, I mean, Duran just, yeah, exactly. He just said, that's it, no mas. Right, and he's the last guy you would ever expect to do that. You know,
it wasn't because he was scared. It wasn't because he was beat down. The frustration of I can't hit this man, and he just hits me. He made him quit. That's a great example. That's a great example.
Now, I again, I don't know. You know, maybe this is before your time, but to me, one of the greatest fighters that I ever saw, who never really got the recognition that he deserved, because I think he's right up there with some of the best, was Marvin Hagler. What do you think? What do you think of Hagler?
Marvin Hagler is one of my favorite fighters ever.
Okay. All right.
To me, one of the best fighters and boxers, because fighters and boxers are two different things.
Right.
There's fighters and then there's boxers. Rocky Marciano was a fighter. Right. He wasn't a boxer. He had no boxing skills whatsoever. Right. But he was a fighter. You either had to kill him, right, or he knocks you out. Right. You had no chance. Right. You know, you either step in there with a baseball bat and crack him on the head and kill him, or no matter how good you are, he's gonna get to you and beat you as a fighter. Right. To me, there's a difference there between a fighter and a boxer. And
Hagler was both.
He's the best mix of a great fighter and a great boxer. That's the perfect example. To me, it's Hagler. Right. Yeah.
Heavyweights, okay. In his prime, okay, and I saw so many: Ali, Foreman, Ken Norton. You know, Marciano was really before my time, but I watched all his films. I always thought Marciano, as great as he was, and as you know, he undefeated, never really fought anybody I thought was great. You know what I mean? I think Tyson, whatever you want to say about him, good, bad, and in his prime, okay, when he was young and in his prime, Could have beat anybody. Could have beat anybody. I think he could have unified the title, which he did back then. All right. And if I ever met him, this is what I would ask him. I would say, Mike, am I crazy for thinking this? In your prime, could you have unified the title, all three belts, the same night? One fought all three guys, one right after the other. And I believe he could have.
Great guy to mention, because when we talk about the greats, everybody says Ali, and got different names and whatnot. And Tyson is somebody who doesn't get the respect that he deserves. To me, Tyson, when I was growing up, when I was in boxing, I watched Ali. So when you see me fight, if you ever see me fight a street fight or in the ring, you're gonna see me move like Ali, because everything I learned was trying to copy Ali's style. So I never got to study Tyson until I got older. Just lately, within the last 5-6 years, bored, watching YouTube, watching old fights.
Right.
I've come to realize
How
wow,
it's
like
amazing. Right.
wow.
And he was like Hagler. He was a brawling fighter, but also a boxer.
So
I mean,
what made me look into him was an interview of Ali, Muhammad Ali. There's an interview. I forgot in what show it was. I believe it was the Arsenio Hall.
okay.
Remember that show?
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah,
The
of course.
Arsenio Hall had Sugar Ray Leonard, Mike Tyson, and Ali as his guest.
Right.
So he asked Mike Tyson, Ali, he asked Ali, who is, if there's a boxer that he thinks that was better than him, that could have beaten him. And Ali said, Mike Tyson. I would have never been able to beat Mike Tyson. He would have knocked me out. And when I heard that from from Ali, really made me look into Mike Tyson. Like, is he BSing, or does he really mean this? When I watched that, Tyson closely, Tyson, yeah. So my kids right now, I have a 7-year-old, Noah, who I'm teaching how to box. I teach all my kids how to box. None of my kids I've taught about Tyson. Noah, I'm teaching about Tyson, because I'm a bigger fan than I ever was now that I started him. So yeah, to be the two head. Actually, I think that Tyson at this moment can beat any heavyweight champion of the ones that we have right now.
I wouldn't be
Tyson
surprised.
Fury, if you put him in the ring with Mike Tyson
Today,
at his age, Mike Tyson will kill him. And people say I'm crazy, but I really think that Mike Tyson will kill Tyson Fury at this moment.
I wouldn't argue against that. I wouldn't argue against that. He was devastating in his prime, and it's a shame that he lost focus and just wasn't the same after a while, because if he would have maintained that focus, I mean, he was, like you said, a boxer fighter, and he was hard to hit. Nobody bobbed and weaved like he did and was able to duck and then come back with an uppercut after he ducked and knock you cold. Because, I mean, just amazing fighter in his prime.
He was so good that he made his opponents look so bad.
Right.
Now we always thought he's facing junk.
Right.
He's facing a bunch of bad fighters.
Right.
Put him against a good one, and everybody who stepped in the ring got killed, got destroyed in a minute.
And everyone he fought back then looked afraid of him. And when the ref was giving the instructions and touch gloves, everybody looked scared. I remember.
He lost the fight before they started fighting.
Right. I'm like, these guys are scared of him. He'd come out with the shorts and the boots with no socks on, and just Just
No, I agree. I
ready to
agree
go.
with you. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Tyson is, yeah, either the best. To me, it'll always be Ali because Ali came up with
Joe Frazier.
that flow of there's no heavyweight in the world that will ever move the way that he moved. He moved like a lightweight,
Right. He did.
as a
He did.
heavyweight. I
Yeah.
mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, he in his prime too. He was unbelievable.
Yeah.
We'll close. I'll tell you a funny story about Mike Tyson and the big upset with Buster Douglas. Okay. The night that Tyson fought Buster Douglas, I forget where that was. It was like in Japan or someplace, far away. I was watching at the time with my girlfriend pay-per-view. Okay. And I grew up in Brooklyn, and I grew up with a lot of people who just, a lot of like wise guy type people, and the night of that fight, I got a call from somebody who liked me a lot, who was one of those guys. And he says, listen, he goes, I know you love to bet the horses. Do you bet boxing? I'm like, no, not really. I play poker and I do horses. He goes, well, if you ever want to bet a fight, he goes, you may want to bet this Buster Douglas tonight. I says, are you out of your mind? Buster Douglas? I says, he's like 1,000 to 1. He's got like no chance. He goes, listen, he goes, I hear things, I know things. He goes, and Tyson's not ready. He's been out, he's drinking, he's partying, he's not focused, he's not right in the head. If he's ever gonna lose, tonight's the night. I'm telling you, you should think about betting. I said, listen, I love you. There's 99 things out of 100 you would tell me to do, and I would do them without asking a question. Betting against Mike Tyson, you're out of your mind. Cannot happen. Even if, I don't care if he's drunk, if he hasn't slept in a week, he's still beating Buster Douglas. I'm hanging up. Boom, I hung up. Watched the fight, and we all know what happened. And I'll never forget it. And to this day,
what was the odds? Do you still
I don't know. There had to be 1,000. Who knows? I mean, ridiculous. I was like, he's like, I told you. I'm like,
wow.
What could I do? So
Wow.
missed that boat, but they knew. There were some people who just they knew. They knew.
From somebody close.
Wasn't fixed. They just knew. He just word got back that hey, he's not ready. And like a horse who ain't ready. You know what I mean? A trainer could bring a horse to a race that's short, a work or two, but he's going to let him run because he needs to get the race into him. People are betting on him. He's not going to win. They don't know it. You know what I mean? Same kind of thing,
It's kind of like when a horse comes up to the race, we see him as 8-5. The form looks great, but we don't know if he ran off 2 days ago in the morning.
Right.
And took up for 3 miles.
Right. Exactly.
That's the type of tip you got, basically.
Exactly.
So that's pretty cool.
Nelson, it was a pleasure talking to you, man. I think this was a lot of fun. We covered a lot of stuff. I think people will really find it interesting. Thanks for all your time, man. I appreciate it. I know you're busy. You got a lot of things going on, and
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. I'd love to do it again.
We'll do it again. We'll get some of your riders on. Maybe we'll get your son on. I'll shut this off, and then we'll say goodbye off camera, and we'll wrap it up. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did.
Tracking trips with Pick 6 King John Stetton. It's one of the best tools in horse racing for any level of player. It's your second set of eyes, spotting troubled trips, betting angles, track trends, horses to watch and favorites to fade, 10 figs, ticket structure, and more. At Tracking Trips, you're a friend with benefits. Not a member? You must hate winning money. Join Tracking Trips now. Visit pastthewire.com and we'll see you in the winner's circle. Remember, nobody does it better.
And they're off in the Curlin, Florida Derby. After 3 quarters in 112-1, Known Agenda is now on to take over the lead. It's Known Agenda for St. Elias Stable. Florida Derby winner, Known Agenda.
Dan Omen here with some exciting news. DRF Formulator, the gold standard in past performance information, is now free exclusively on DRF Bets. Join DRF Bets with the promo code WINNING. Get a $250 first deposit match bonus, a $10 free bet, and free Formulator already uploaded to your account. Access Formulator's premium features, including sortable trainer stats, race replays, personalized trip notes, and lots more. Free Formulator exclusively on DRF Bets.
Nobody does it better.